What's up, everybody? Welcome to Three Wide in the Middle with me, Thomas Brandon, and back this week, my man Keith Bradley. Keith, how you feeling? Missed you last week, man.
I feel like I'm from the dead between having either a little touch of food poisoning, sleep deprived, stomach bug, possibly, don't know. All I know is working every day is for the wolves, like I told you off air.
Yes.
Like for all the listeners listening, on my work schedule, I'm spoiled. I work 3 days off 4, work 4 off 3, and now we got a guy out for surgery, and I'm working every day but Fridays, and it sucks.
That's rough, man. Yeah, I got this week so this last weekend was my first weekend off this year. It was the first time in 2023 that I had Saturday and Sunday off. And yeah, it was nice. It was really nice. Now this weekend I'm not going to get that. I'm going to be working again. My wife's also going to be working. She's starting a new job, which is cool because she's been wanting to start this new job. And so she'll be closer and have a better schedule and stuff. So that's good.
It's awesome.
Yeah, because we're
That is
looking at houses right now. I don't know if we're going to be able to buy one because the market in wherever you're living at, outside of like Texas or Nashville, right? Like outside of Austin, Texas, or Nashville, Tennessee, because everybody seems to be moving to those two places. California is still screwed. It's so ridiculous. So ridiculous. We went and looked at this house. It was $330,000. $330,000. This thing was horrible. It was horrible. Like, it was literally, the wood was rotten out on the fascia because the house is built in like the 20s and it never had any gutters. The flooring that they did was not good. For some reason, and I don't know why, they raised the flooring. You walk into the living room. I am 5'8" on a very good day in boots. Okay, I'm like 5'7", right?
I got the same problem.
Yeah, and when I can walk into a house and I can literally stand flat-footed, reach up and put my palm on the ceiling of the living room, that's a problem. Okay, houses aren't built like that. That's not standard. Even back in the 20s, that wasn't standard. So for whatever reason, they lowered the ceiling or raised the floor. So, I mean, they just had all this shoddy stuff that they did to it. The windows in it were like 40 years old, and they want $300,000 for it. Then we go see a house that was like $300,000, right? $30,000 left. And this house, you're like, how is this thing even standing? How is this thing even passing code to sell? Like, that was the difference. And you're looking at it and it's only $30,000, right? $30,000 is a lot of money, but when you're talking about spending $300 on a house, $30,000 is nothing. To have a house that at least will pass code and one that you're like, I wouldn't want my kids to live in this. You know what I mean? So it's been ridiculous looking at this stuff. And for my wife to be getting what will be a better job and closer and all that stuff like that, it's like, okay, that's good, because if we're going to actually do this, we've got to have, a better situation with her job, because her commuting and all that stuff, it sucks, man. It blows, dude. It's
a sign, Tommy.
I hope
it's
so.
A sign to come to the Midwest.
Dude, if I'm telling you,
cost of living's a little cheaper.
Yeah, not much, but I mean, I honestly would love to. If it wasn't for our families are all here, and not just our families being here, but both sides, my wife's side and my side, we have older members of the family, that are just, we don't know how much longer they could be here another year, they could be here another 10 years, we don't know, right? And when you've got great grandkids, their great grandkids, it's kind of hard to take them away, so that's one of the reasons why we, because we've talked about it, and that's in the cards after my son is out of high school. So I mean, we've got another 7-8 years here in California, where it's like, let's go somewhere else. Let's go to another state. Yeah, because we would have left
Yeah.
California a long time ago if it wasn't for my daughter. So,
Yeah, I don't blame you.
yeah.
Before we get started, I want to give a shout out to a friend of mine,
All
Hunter
right.
Parsons. I met him through a league on iRacing. How convenient.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like a full circle of friends here. Um, but I want to give a big shout out to him. A big congratulations to him. He just took a job with Joe Gibbs Racing in their graphic design
Nice.
vinyl department. So I wanna give big congratulations to Hunter. I'm excited for him. I'm excited to see him go on this new adventure. It's freaking awesome. It's exciting.
That's awesome, man. That's freaking cool, dude. I love hearing stories like that. That's
Yeah.
cool.
So the cars that JGR took to Kansas, he helped wrap. That was part of his test, and he sent me a message and was like, "Hey, I got that job," and I was like, "That's freaking awesome. That is awesome."
That is. Yeah. Um, it's pretty incredible. NASCAR teams are literally looking more to the sim world to bring people. Keegan Leahy got hired with what was it, 2311?
Yeah.
you know, Coke Series champion, and he's brought in, the sim is such a big aspect of what the
Huge.
NASCAR drivers
It's
do now
growing.
yeah, it's huge. And so, that's really cool to see that you got a graphic designer who you meet in the sim. Like that's, I really think we've talked about this before where the, uh, the tool that iRacing can be for NASCAR, right?
Right. And
Is still, I think there's still a lot more that they can do with it.
And I think what's even neater is he found the job ad on TikTok.
Yeah,
So he applied and was like, "Well, we'll see what happens." And
yeah.
I was like, "Dude, that's awesome. That is great."
I will tell you right now, if there was ever a time to get a job in NASCAR, this is the time.
Now's the time to
It
do it.
is the time,
There's
yeah. I
there's
wish
teams
that it was
hiring
like this.
everywhere.
Yeah, I wish it was like this when I had gone to North Carolina. I moved to North Carolina in my early 20s. I think I was 20 or 21, 21. They did all after I had blown out my knee and I realized I was not going to play college sports. And let's not get it twisted. It's not like I was going to Oklahoma or Alabama or something. I was going to be playing at some very small time college, right? But I was going to get an education out of it. That was the whole purpose of it. And once I realized I was not going to be able to do that, racing was something I'd always done. I'd always wanted to work in racing. I had been working on the cars and setting them up and stuff like that since I was like 13, 14 years old. And so it was like, well, I'll just go to North Carolina and see what I can do, see what I can find a job. And back then they had a lot of these what were called 5 off, 5 on schools, which were like pit crew schools. Because being on a pit crew back then is not like it is now, okay? Even back then in the early 2000s, right? You did not, because these guys are legit top shelf athletes, right?
Oh
You're
yeah,
talking
they're former.
these guys are former NFL players, former
Yep.
NBA players, right? Like these are the guys these are the ones that don't get drafted into the NFL and then they're on a pit crew, okay? So these guys are insane athletes. Back
And
then it was yeah,
getting paid an enormous amount of money to change
yes,
a single lug nut.
yes, yes, absolutely. Um, but back then, if you were on to get on a pit crew, like you were the guy who also worked on the car during the week. You were a mechanic. These guys don't know anything about the cars really. They're just all they do is change tires, right? Or that's it.
Well, and it and a good example is Steve Letarte.
Yeah.
He started as a pit crew guy,
Hmm.
went from a pit crew guy to I think a mechanic,
Yep.
and then into a crew chief role.
Yep. So I went back to North Carolina. I've told the story before. I went back there. I really didn't have a plan. My buddy Lee was working for Casey Kane Racing at the time, which was I think Joey Saldana was the driver of the sprint car at that time. My buddy was on that team, um, on the sprint car team. There was only like two or three of them. You don't run a big team even on the Outlaw Tour. And I moved back in with him, and I was there for a couple of months. I had no idea what I was going to do. I just wanted to get a job in racing, and I met. I had a way in. I met Jarrett Johnson, Jimmy Johnson's little brother. I met him at a bar And we drank one night and talked. He gave me his card, said give him a call. He was working at some seat shop. I can't remember who it was. It might have been actually LaJoy Seats, if I'm remembering correctly. I could be wrong about that. But he asked me, he's like, "Can you TIG weld?" I was like, "Yeah, I can TIG weld. I can TIG weld aluminum, stainless steel, chrome moly." And he was like, "Give me a call." He goes, I can get you in." He goes, "If you're trying to go through one of these 5 off, 5 on schools," he goes, "it's a waste of time. Don't do it." He goes, "If you really want to do this, if you're really dedicated, you're going to have to just start at the bottom and work your way up." I was like, "That's why I'm here." And it was like 2 days later, my knee went out on me and I was dragging it behind me again. Cause at that time I'd already had like 3 surgeries. I was also a drug addict at that time too. Let's be honest. I was full blown opiate addict at that time. And I was like, yeah, this ain't gonna work. I can't be back here pulling my leg behind me in a wagon because I can't walk on it and also screwed up on Oxycontins. So that was my big venture into NASCAR. But I say all of that to say I wish it had been as opportunistic as it is now, because back then, I could have applied for stuff just online. I could have gone back there already having a job or a potential job, as opposed to having to go back there and kind of like just walk around and search, hope I meet someone in a bar type of deal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you want a job in NASCAR right now, it is literally the time to do it. If you know anything about what they're doing, you can do it. And there's still room to grow there. I know a lot of the setup people and stuff like that, it's all engineers and stuff, but there's still some old school guys in there and they still figure stuff out. And it can matter, you know what I mean? It can make a difference. I don't know um how much I obviously we've talked about it before, that NASCAR and iRacing and the teams also in NASCAR, they work together with iRacing. They share a lot of data to help improve the car. One of the main reasons for that is the drivers in NASCAR use the iRacing platform to practice. Like that's what they do. Now I think they have a tire model that the manufacturers get the data on, or so I don't know exactly how that works. I don't think they're using the iRacing tire model the way that it is. I think they modify it or something. But I just know that the the complexity of that current car in the sim is insane, right? The amount of time I spend testing and tweaking and trying to looking at data on a sim is insane. I can't imagine how much those engineers are doing, right? How much time that they're spending looking at data, and this car is so complex. I heard Corey LaJoy talk about this, and I was saying this during my live stream just a few nights ago. One or two, a half a turn on the right rear is huge on this car. It's huge. It can take a bad car and make it good. Like, that's not an exaggeration. That's in the sim. Well, apparently it's like that in real life too. Like a quarter pound of air pressure is like, oh my God, the difference between your car sucking and your car being amazing. These cars are so aero sensitive. So, to work on that aspect of it, you might need a mechanical engineering degree, but everything else from what I've heard, they're like can't find enough people for. So
Freaking
yeah.
science degree.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah, yeah. The days of Jake Elder sitting on a spring, going, "Here, put this one in the right front." Those days are long
Yeah, those.
gone.
Yeah, no. Maybe in the
So
Xfinity Truck Series, but
yeah, they still got a little
not,
bit of that. Yeah, but
not in
even
the
in
Cup.
those cars, I mean the Xfinity, they don't coil bind, but like the trucks, they're coil binding that front end, and you got to be able to calculate. This is how much deflection we got. This is how much that springs in a drop. Like it's fairly advanced. It's not crazy like the next gen cars are, but those trucks are very aero dependent as well. You know what I mean? Like being able to block air and use air, it's insane. So yeah, it's who'd ever thunk it, that we'd be where we're at right now with NASCAR, as advanced as it is. It's crazy. So
Yeah, 3 years ago or 4 years ago, we'd never think that we'd have a next gen car the way we have it now, and now it's, I don't know whether it's good or bad.
yeah, well, we didn't get a chance to talk after the race at Kansas, and I thought that was the best race of the year. I
I
actually thought that was one of the best races in the last couple years. I loved it.
I think I'm gonna agree. Between that and Auto Club, I keep going back and forth with
Auto
both of
Club
them.
was an amazing race too. It really
Oh,
was.
Auto Club has been phenomenal with this new car.
Mhm.
It almost makes me want to sit in my chair and cry that they're turning it into a short track. Then you turn around and watch Kansas, and it's like, okay, that softens the blow a touch.
Mhm.
Now, if only the rest of the mile and a halfs could be the same way, that'd be great. But unfortunately,
Yeah.
you get the good with the bad and the bad with the good.
Yeah, I really liked Kansas. I thought it was an incredible race. That apparently is what this car needs. It needs multi-groove racetracks.
Oh,
Some
100%.
form of with the current, and let me clarify, with the current package right now, okay? If you're going to run this 670 package with the 4-inch spoiler on these, intermediate tracks, it needs a wide progressively banked track where you can run multiple grooves, because these cars have to be able to get some form of clean air when they're trying to pass, right? They have to. You look at that move that Denny did on Larson, and not just to catch him, but also to pass him there at the end, where Larson's running on the wall and Denny's going down low. Denny's going down low because Denny needs clean air. If he were to follow Larson, he's not going to get a run. He's just not, because the air is too dirty and it affects that car way too much. So he goes low. Larson actually hits the wall, scrapes the wall right before Denny gets into him. Denny did not wreck Larson. Larson bounced off the wall and he ends up getting the win. But that type of racing, it's awesome. I love it because we see the same thing on the dirt side, right, Keith? That's exactly what we see on the dirt side, where there will be a dominant line, right? It's almost impossible to avoid. It's very rare, even on the Outlaw Tour. It's very rare that you're going to have the top and the bottom be identical in speed. It's almost
Yeah, I've
impossible.
never seen it like that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's almost impossible. Now, you might have people who set their cars up to run one over the other, and so they will have a bit of an advantage on one of those lines. But never, all things being equal, never are you going to be like, oh, this line is exactly the same speed as this line. It's just not possible. Okay, there's too many variables and stuff like that. But you'll see it where you've got somebody, maybe you'll have first and second place, they're both running the high line, and then all of a sudden what happens, second place gets that run, they throw it down onto the bottom, right? They've got to have that, even especially with those wings, air matters, and they've got to get that run, and they've got to clear that guy, and they'll throw a slider, and it's amazing. And that's what we saw at Kansas in these cup cars, where there's multiple grooves. You could run the top, the middle, the bottom. You could do slider like lines where you're literally dive bombing down low and come drifting all the way up the track in front of them. Like it was incredible. So yeah, I loved it. Um, I wish we could have more races like Kansas. Obviously, we don't want it to be ridiculous, right? We don't want every track to end up as a mile and a half, because they've done that before and it made the product horrible. But right now with this current package, I think the Kansas, you know, Fontana, I do think Charlotte's going to be a good race too, because you once again, it's not progressively banked like Kansas, but it's multiple grooves. You can run the top, you can run the bottom. It's obviously the track is going to change a lot over the course of 600 miles. And I thought Darlington was a good race too. I got to admit, I thought Darlington was a pretty good race for Darlington standards. What'd you think of the
And
race?
and I agree. Darlington was pretty good. It wasn't boring. It wasn't a snooze fest. It was good. I have high hopes for the Coke 600 in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's going to be a really good race. It put on a really good race last year. Um, but back to Darlington, I think it was overall a better Darlington race than definitely last year,
Yes. Yep.
for sure. Um, Now, flip side, I think the Xfinity Series won the weekend,
That race
for
was
sure.
incredible.
Oh my God, I don't know what it is with the Xfinity car at Darlington, but you always see a really good finish.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know what it is neither. I don't know if it's that
I'm not
that
gonna complain
car's
about it either.
no, it was a great race, you know, and I don't know if it's that car's, you know, lack of downforce, right? You know, if you look at Darlington, it's just over 1 mile. You've got 2 very distinct corners. It's shaped like an egg, and for all the speed that they carry there, once those tires fall off some, and those tires fall off very fast there at Darlington, right? You're talking literally 7, 8 laps, and they've already lost, you know, a few tenths. You know, the mechanical grip side of things really comes into play, and this is where you can start to see, you know, a really good driver, even if their car is only okay, um, come alive. And obviously, we saw what Kyle Larson did in that race, which was incredible. And even you know John Hunter Nemechek, I mean, he had a phenomenal run as well. So yeah, I'm with you. The Xfinity race was awesome.
And I think that goes for like 95% of the Xfinity races. They've all been pretty dang good, I think.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, the Cup race was really good too. I mean, it wasn't nearly as spectacular as the Xfinity race, but it had some twists and some odd turns for sure.
yeah, it did. It did
Thanks to
definitely.
thanks to Ross.
Yeah, yeah. Ross, a man is he's just a magnet for controversy. So yeah, we'll get into Ross here in a few minutes when we get to hit or
And
miss.
and I do want to say one thing since I missed last week. I gotta give props to Noah Gragson. Granted, yeah, he got thumped, but we sat here on this podcast and everybody else doing their podcast saying, well, somebody needs to stand up and fucking just do something.
Yeah.
Approach him. Well,
Yep.
Noah did. I mean, granted, he got thumped,
Yep.
but he basically did what everybody was talking about doing.
Yep.
Um,
Exactly.
Now, flip side, I think whoever that security guard is that deflected Noah's punch should have allowed Noah to at least retaliate. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say I agree with the fist fighting on pit road. Yeah, it makes it exciting. But if you're going to allow one guy to get one hit in, you got to allow the other guy to get a hit in.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would have
And then
liked to
watch
have
the hands
seen
and be done with it.
yeah, yep. I would have liked to have seen Noah at least get his shot in. Um I understand it like I talked about last week in my rant, you know, those of you who saying Ross it was a cheap shot, you're an idiot and you've either never been in a fight or you just flat out don't know what you're talking about. The moment someone puts their hands on you, it's go time. If someone's got their hands on you and you tell them to stop multiple times, I've to me
It's game over
yeah,
at
it's
that point.
there you should have already punched him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I get it. Uh, oh, I understand it. I totally am 100%. If I was Ross, I'd have done the same thing, especially with someone like Noah. Noah's a big boy. Okay. Noah, Noah's not, if Noah did that to me, I mean, first of all, I would need a stack of phone books to reach his face. But second, I mean, I would have hit him the moment he touched me because I'm looking for every angle I can get on that guy. I mean, he's a big
Yeah.
boy. So
Any advantage. I need
yeah,
any and every
definitely,
advantage.
definitely, because he's gonna pound me. So you know, I completely get it from Ross's point of view. And then like I said, I wish Noah could have at least got his one shot because Noah threw one, and it got stopped by the security guard.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm with
And
you. I don't want knockdown drag out fights. I
no,
mean,
no, I'm
obviously
not
the
saying turn it
79
in.
Daytona made NASCAR famous, but we don't need that happening.
No, no,
Yeah.
I'm not saying we need to turn it into a hockey fight.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
if one guy throws a punch and lands it, give the other guy an
Yeah.
opportunity to do the same thing and
Yeah.
then be done with it. Break it
Yeah.
up, separate them. I'm sure they had words either in the bus lot, airport back. They trained together, so that's a twist.
Yeah.
Ross's crew chief is Noah's manager, so it's freaking weird and funny and
Yeah.
crazy at the same time. So I
Well,
mean,
and
I
according to Noah or according to Ross, he said they squashed it. You know, they talked it out and fixed it this last week. You know, he was saying that before the race at Darlington. So,
yeah, and that's good. That's good for both sides. But man, if you're not a fan of Noah, that should have made you a fan. And if you got something to complain about Noah about it, at least look at it from the bigger perspective of last year, where everybody's like, "Well, somebody's got to confront him. Well, who's going to freaking do it?" And then
Yeah.
Brennan Poole runs his mouth about him and doesn't do nothing. Well, Noah might have tried, but I gotta give him a round of applause. At least he
Mhm.
tried.
Yeah, he gets an A for effort.
Oh
Definitely.
yeah, 100%. Now, granted, yeah, he got thumped, and I watched the
Mhm.
video from pit road, not the TV version, and you could hear the punch. Like
Yeah,
it's
it's
almost
a
like it woke up everybody else and was like, all right, let's not. If you're gonna approach Ross, get the first hit in, walk away.
yeah. So, I don't see too many more people confronting him like that.
No, and he's a farmer,
Yeah.
so I mean,
All I'm saying, that's what I said last week. I'm like, Ross is he's he's a man's man, right? He's what we think of NASCAR was, 30 years ago, right? The
a
that
blue
image
collar racer.
yeah, that image of that guy who's working at, the steel mill Monday through Friday and then racing on the weekends hoping to get a ride in the Cup Series. So like that's what he is. And the dude's farming watermelons and racing Cup on the weekends. So yeah, it was interesting. But yeah, I'm with you. You want to let each of them get their shots in, whatever. I've heard people. You let them do like a hockey fight. I mean, there's instances I would think I would love to see that, but for the most part, I don't want to see that.
No,
When I think of fighting like that, I think of my local dirt track when I was growing up. And when I think of that, I think of a bunch of rednecks getting drunk every weekend out there fist fighting. Like that's what it was. It's just a bunch of idiots fighting over stupid shit. I mean, I'll never forget one time, and this guy ended up being my high school football coach. This guy, I won't say his name. Well, let's call him Dave. So Dave's a big boy, and Dave was nuts. And they had ran, I don't know, the Bombers or the Street Stocks or something like that. And one guy had got bumped into by Dave. And so him and his three buddies came over to Dave's pit and wanted to fight him. And so Dave says, I'll fight all four of you, but one at a time. And proceeded to knock all four of them out. Like it was like something you would see in a movie, right? It's like one of them Bruce Lee movies, right? we can fight one on one or we can fight all together, right? Like it was something like that. And proceeded to knock them all out. And when I was a kid, I was like, oh my God. I was shocked by that, right? Because I was like 8 or 9 years old when this happened. And I remember that to this day. And when I think of fighting at a racetrack, that's what I think of. And I don't want that perception of NASCAR. Like I said, we think about the 79 Daytona and what it did to grow the sport and put it on the map and stuff like that. But we don't want that every time there's a confrontation. We don't
no,
need that brawl, with all the people jumping into it and it's just no. So yeah.
and
Let each of them have a shot and then break it up, move on.
And I like Kevin Harvick's opinion on it. Like with this new car, like the Bubba Kyle Larson stuff, now that I've had a year to really think about it,
Mhm.
and then what Kevin Harvick said, it really changed my mind on the whole perception of the fighting. With this new car, you don't know injury wise with these guys. I mean, what if you wreck me and I have a mild concussion and we start to fight and you land a good hit on my head and it knocks me out, then what happens?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
happens next? What's the next step here?
Yeah.
Uh, I mean,
You
is the
hit someone
fighting
wrong and they get a bleed in their brain or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, something serious could happen. Now, granted, yeah, fighting's gonna be a part of racing. It always will be. You'll
Yes.
never get rid of it, but leave it to the bus lot. Leave it in the bus lot after the race is over, no fans are around. I know it's exciting and you're gonna have heated tempers and you just ain't gonna get away from it, but it's not really a good look on the sport right now.
No,
Like,
it's
I'm a
not.
firm believer before the fight, Noah Gregson's probably the lock on the fan vote. He probably isn't now.
No. Yep. You're right. So, yeah. All right. So, we are going to take a quick break. That was one hell of an open, and we just kind of talked about a bunch of stuff. But we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we've got hit or miss. We've got our dirt track roundup, our NASCAR pick'em, plus another ask 3 wide question, which is really, really good. So stick around because we'll be back with all of that in just a second. Today's episode is brought to you by Produxa. Look, you guys, when it comes to protecting and adding a mirror-like shine to your surfaces, you pretty much have 2 options. You can go with one of those low, quality products out there. Do the old school, like my parents used to do, use the old dish soap to wash your car, or you can go with Produxa. You guys, I've personally used this stuff and it works incredible, man. Whether it's their ceramic coating, their wash, their tire shine, and it not only looks great, but it's super easy to use. I mean, my 10-year-old son was helping me use this stuff, and we used it on my daughter's car, and the car literally looked new. And my daughter's 17, so you can imagine that the car did not look new before we washed it. So if you want to actually give your car a mirror-like shine while in the process protecting it, head over to Produxa.com or the link down in the description below and check out their full line of products today. I can promise you, you will love them. All right, it is now time for our hit or miss portion of the show. Looks like we got 5 questions this week. It's kind of funny because 2 drivers are really the ones that we're going to be talking about in hit or miss. So, first up, Kyle Larson got the win Saturday's Xfinity race over John Hunter Nemechek. What was funny is Kyle Larson got blasted on social media. And all of it, I thought, was moronic. What really set me off was the idiots who said Kyle Larson is not racing for points, which is dumb because the team owner is. All right, so there's our context. So, Keith, hit or miss the mark. All of these guys saying that these drivers who come down and run Xfinity are not racing for points are absolute morons. Hit or miss the mark.
It hits the mark 100 times
Thank
over
you.
and over and
Thank
over and
you.
over again. And this was my complaint when people were bitching about Kyle Busch, and then they made the rule for it. Well, not only is Kyle helping these young kids, because
Yes.
it's not every day you get to learn from Kyle. Granted, yeah, you're not physically learning, but you're watching what he's doing. Not only that, he's bringing eyes into the lower tiered series. He's
Definitely.
bringing in sponsors to the lower tiered series. He's got teams. Not only that, but they're also racing for an owner's championship.
Yes, which is a lot of money
A lot of
on the
money on the
line.
line. Granted, yeah, is it field with a full-time driver? No, it's not.
Nope.
But they're still racing for owner points. It's no different than the Cup Series when they switched to Bubba and Ty Gibbs. No different.
Yep. It's
We're
absolutely
trying,
100% right.
yeah, like the championship itself pays the most money. Yes, we all know this. But the owners' championship is,
It's a
to me,
lot of money.
is it? Well, it's a ton of money, and I think it's a
Mm-hmm.
little more prestigious on the ownership side because then the owner can say, "My team's better than yours.
Yes,
The whole
absolutely.
organization's better than yours."
Absolutely. You know,
So, I mean,
I'm with you, man. The guy that I got into midget racing with, his name was Terry Caves, and for years leading up to when I started working for him, and when I started working for him, that's when they formed CMR, which was Caves Matthews Racing, and Ron Matthews, who I've talked about before, got me my first outlaw card and stuff like that. His son Shane was who they put in the car. We had another driver, John Cirali. Those were the 2 full-time drivers. Up till then, Terry had always ran a bunch of different drivers, and he would basically win the owner's championship every year in the BCRA back when the BCRA was a real big deal, and not the driver's championship. Well, it's because he would run, 5 races with Ronnie Day, and then he'd have Ken Schrader show up and run, and he'd have Tony Stewart show up and run. Like, he had like all these like heavy hitters who would come in and run his midget, and he would win the owner's championship, right? He did it all the time. Well, it's no different in the Xfinity Series, right? When you can have Kyle Larson come down, Kyle Busch come down, right? Even an AJ Allmendinger if he comes down and runs your road races or whatever. When you can have these guys come do that and you can be at the top of the ownership standings, that's a big deal for your team. Because let's be honest, when you look at the Xfinity Series, minus the Cup drivers who are coming down, how many legit drivers are there, right? We can count them on what? Two hands and have a few fingers left over. You know what I mean? When you're talking about a John Hunter Nemechek, a Josh Berry, right? Like there's a few really good Xfinity drivers, and then you've got a bunch of other guys who are they're good for what they do, right? But they're not superstar, they're not cup bound. You know what I mean? So to me, I'm with you. It puts eyes on the sport. It gives these guys a measuring stick. You know what I mean? You go listen to people who talk about running the Xfinity Series against Mark Martin, right? You go listen to people like Dale Earnhardt Jr., Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex, Matt Kenseth, these guys who, when Martin raced the Xfinity Series back then, the Busch Series, all the time, they ran it all the time. They knew where they stood. And when they could beat him, it was like, dude, I can beat Mark Martin, right? That's a huge confidence boost. You know, John Hunter Nemechek running with Kyle Larson, right? Considered to be the best driver in the sport right now. So I'm with you. You guys saying that, you're idiots. You don't know what you're talking about. You are either A John Hunter Nemechek fan and you want to bitch at Kyle Larson, or B, you hate Kyle Larson and you want to bitch at Kyle Larson. You're just looking
Well,
for a reason to get mad.
and it's the same fans that are saying, well, Kyle doesn't need to lower his standards and go race this dirt stuff.
Which is stupid. Because
If
it's,
anybody's saying that, sit down and watch the new show on Fox Sports 1, Dirt,
yes.
and listen to what he says.
Yep. You guys are idiots.
He's
You don't
not
know what you're
lowering his
talking about.
standard at all. I
No.
mean, just
He's racing with the
this is
best dirt drivers out there. The people who say that are just
100%.
idiots. They're just
100%.
idiots.
And everybody's got an opinion. That's
Mm-hmm.
cool. You're allowed to have your opinion. Opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got
Yep.
one.
You're allowed to
But
have an opinion. And I'm
to
allowed
say
to have
the
my
idiot,
opinion of you.
100%. And I hate seeing this shit on social media. Like, well, they shouldn't be running. They're not racing for nothing. No, they
Yeah.
are. Not only
Yeah.
are they racing for a paycheck and a trophy,
Mm-hmm.
but they're trying to help that team win the owners' championship also.
Yep.
Now, I'm not
Exactly.
saying I'm not saying they should pull Kevin Harvick and run both seasons, both
Yes.
schedules full time. I'm not saying that at all. But if Stuart Haas starts a third Xfinity team for either Ford Performance development drivers and sprinkle in some Cup guys, I'm cool with it.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because it brings eyes to the freaking sport.
Yep.
They're helping grow it.
Absolutely.
The new
Absolutely.
generation just sucks because that's 95% of the argument.
Yeah, it
You're
is.
arguing with these young kids like, well, Kyle Busch shouldn't be doing this, and it's like,
Yeah.
whatever. I ain't even fighting with you.
Yep. You're absolutely you're absolutely correct. It's just a bunch of people
I
being
ruined a friendship with a
idiots.
friend over this argument
Yeah, I see.
because he would post on social media, well, Kyle Busch shouldn't be doing this. I'm like, dude, if you was the owner of the team
Yes.
and you had truckloads of talent and you knew, okay, I can get in this car and win, wouldn't you get in to do it to help your not only your team but your whole company?
Yes. Absolutely.
I mean,
Everybody would do that.
to use
Everybody
this,
would do
yeah,
that.
to use it as an example. If I was to jump in a car, you think a big money sponsor is going to come rolling out? No. But if they were to say, well, we're going to put Kyle Busch in the car, take my money.
Yes. Please. Please. What do you guys want? You need money for the whole season? We got you. Yeah, hey,
Yeah,
please. You
that's
know what I
exactly
mean?
what it is.
Yeah.
Like you have owners championships
Yep.
in all these series from USAC to the World of Outlaws, and they're
Mm-hmm.
all equally as prestigious,
Yep.
and they pay really good freaking money.
Yep. Absolutely. So, all right, moving on. I saved this one for when you got back because I wanted to make sure we talked about it. But we've horsepower has been in the conversation a lot over the last few weeks, especially when we were doing all the short track races and stuff like that. We've heard them say that for us to talk about NASCAR to go to 800 horsepower, we would have to start that development now for us just to get the parts. Well, Doug Yates came out and was like, "Look, we can go to 725 right now." Just change the tapered spacer, and the parts are essentially the same thing. It's what we're basically running. So should NASCAR take the advice of Doug Yates and just run 725 with the current parts right now and risk it for the rest of the season? Hit or miss the mark?
I think it hits the mark, but I wouldn't run it at every mile and a half.
I'm
Maybe
with you
try
there.
it at a couple just
Yeah.
to see, because what if you change it and it changes the whole landscape of everything going on, or if it changes the car for the bad,
Yes.
and then you're screwed, then you look dumb. But if you come out and say, hey, like the COT car when it came out in 2007, I think, where they ran
Sprinkle it
it at,
in.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
run it either at a couple mile and a halfs, maybe a short track and a road course, just to see what the differences are. Because my biggest argument with this car is it's top level motorsports. This race car should be able to buzz the tires with just getting in the gas real quick,
Yep.
and it can't. That is a
Yep.
problem. Tire wear is a problem, and the horsepower will help. Now, this ain't saying that you're going to have to change some other things on the car, because I think you will,
Yes.
but
Anytime you
you
modify the
don't know till you
horsepower,
try it.
yeah. Anytime you modify horsepower, you're going to have to change, specifically when it comes to the adjustment side, right? If you add another 50, 75 horsepower to these cars, that's a big deal. And that's going to affect your setups in terms of what you're running for a spring package and your aero package, right? What kind of platform you're trying to get on that car. I'm with you. I would like to see them do it just a few times. I think the All-Star race at Wilkesboro would have been an excellent time for them to try this. Say, hey man, we're taking the tapered spacer off. It's gonna, or we're running whatever it is, and,
100%.
and it's gonna be 750 horsepower, same downforce package. I think that this would have
Well,
been the perfect race to do that.
and they'd have plenty of time through the weekend to try it, because they got the
Mm-hmm.
practice, they got the All-Star Open, heat
Yep.
races, the All-Star race.
Yep.
And then if it works, try it at the next short track, and then try it at, I'm trying to pull up the schedule here, maybe try it at New Hampshire, Richmond,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and
Try it at a
when they
couple of short tracks.
and
Then
then
they
try it
could
at
even leave it.
Darlington.
Yeah, they could even leave the 670 package for the mile and a halves, right? They could even do that because, like I said, when we've got the right track, it's been phenomenal racing. You could even do that if they're
I
worried
think it would
about that.
improve the short tracks.
I do too. I think it would improve the short tracks and the road courses. You should not be. We talked about this at nauseum. You should not be able to dive it into the corner at Martinsville, shift down, and punch it. Literally go from no throttle to full throttle, and the car go. That you should spin out. There's no way that should hook up and go. I don't care what setup you're running on the car, right? And that's what a lot of guys were doing. They weren't downshifting going into the corner, engine braking, and then driving out. No, they were literally getting to the apex of the corner, slamming it into third and punching it and driving off. That's
Yep, and
insane.
and if you overdrove the corner, you
Just
downshift again and
grabbed another gear and left. Went, took
hammer
off.
down,
Yep.
and no repercussion from it at all. Like, you would never see the car get a little bit of sideways, nothing. It stayed
Mm-hmm.
planted, absolutely planted.
Yep.
So
So yeah, I'm with you. I wish they would try it a couple of times. They
you don't
probably
know how.
won't, but it would be nice.
I mean, you don't know how it's going to work if you don't freaking try it. Just try it.
Exactly. Exactly. And when last thought on this, when you looked at the package that they had on the Gen 6 car, right? The year before they went to the next gen car, what was the best racing? It was the short track and the road course. And what did they run? They ran the low downforce 700, I think it was 750 horsepower package. That was hands down their best package. It was hands down the best racing. It was what started this whole short track evolution. Or we need more short tracks. We need more road courses. And now they bring this car in and they don't even run that package. They don't even run that much horsepower. So, yeah, I would love to see them try it. Will they? Who knows? Probably not, at least this year. But
Don't
it
hold
makes
your breath.
for, yeah, it makes interesting conversation. So, anyways, moving on. On the last lap of, well, I should say not the last lap because it was technically a restart, but on the restart of Darlington this last weekend, Ross Chastain cost Kyle Larson yet another win on the season. Hit or miss the mark?
I'm in between on this one, because What Ross did to Kyle, Kyle did to Ross, and this is what people are forgetting. They're forgetting that Kyle squeezed Ross in the wall. Did he wreck him? No,
But he
but he
squeezed him.
squeezed him. He didn't leave him no
Hmm.
room. So Ross, in turn, did it to him, got the lead. Yellow came out.
Yep.
He did it again. I think Kyle was closer to him than what Ross expected, and they wrecked.
Yep.
It's going to happen. Now, do I say that it's hard to tell if he took the win because, I mean, coming down to the late stages of the race, anything could have happened. Hell, I'd wreck my grandma to win a race at
Yeah.
Darlington. Um, I'm not blaming solely on Ross. I blame both.
Yeah.
Takes
I
two
I
to tango.
I think it was more of a racing deal. Larson absolutely did that before to Ross on the restart. Ross did it back to Larson. If you look at the wreck that happened, which had Martin Truex Jr. in it on the initial restart, where Larson slid up into Ross. Truex he was full wheel locked left, man. His wheel would not turn anymore to the left, and the car just pushed right up
Yeah,
into the car outside of him. You know what I
into
mean? That's
Lagana.
how Darlington is. There's a
Now,
reason why they basically run one groove through 1 and 2.
and here's what frustrates me to no end, and I'm glad you brought up the Martin Truex Jr. thing. Why aren't all these people throwing their hands up because Martin?
Yeah.
Where are
Because
they where
Martin
are they
doesn't
at on
have
that one?
Ross's reputation.
No, and he doesn't. But I mean, it's no freaking different
It's not. But
at all.
it's perception is reality. I tell my son this all the time. I say, Isaac, people's perception is their reality. The way they see things, that's what is real to them. Okay, that's all it is. It's all there is to it. I go, if people think you're a jerk, in their eyes, you're a jerk. It doesn't matter if you're the nicest person on earth. If they don't see it that way, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing with this. Martin
100%.
Truex Jr. is considered a stand up guy, one of the most respected drivers in the garage, right? If he bumps into you, it is an accident. There is something that has happened. That was not intentional. On the flip side, Ross Chastain is not seen that way, right? People might have respect for him. They might even secretly be rooting for him, right? I mean, you have Denny who's like, I'm kind of liking the guy now, right? Like, I mean, but his reputation precedes him. And if Ross gets into you, whether it's your fault or not, it does not matter. Ross is the whipping boy. He's going to take the blame. So that's why you're not going to hear anything about Truex and you're going to hear about Ross because he's just got that reputation.
Now, I
So,
will say Ross is good for the sport.
absolutely.
He is
Absolutely.
great for the sport right now where it's at. I mean, you don't have any other type of racer like Ross right now for the good or for the bad, but he's bringing attention to the sport. I
Absolutely.
mean, the
And it's
man was
good.
on Pat McAfee's show,
Mhm. Yeah,
but
it's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. So, yeah. Now, that being said, speaking of Ross Chastain should have at least 3 wins on this season alone. Hit or miss the mark.
it definitely hits the mark. I think Ross has definitely taken himself out of contention in some wins here this season by his own doing. Um,
Yes.
just by the way he's been racing, like he probably could have won at Darlington if he didn't pull the moves that he pulled. But
Yep.
you live and learn, I guess.
Yes. No, you're absolutely correct. Um, Ross has 0 wins on this season. He has what 2 wins on his career, and those are the 2 wins he got last year.
Yeah,
Ross should have a couple of wins this season already. You know, there was a couple of times where he should have wins. I mean, he should have at least 2, if not 3. I personally think Kyle Larson should have 4 on the year. That caution doesn't come out at Darlington, he wins the race. I mean, there just to me that's just he was by far the best car at that point, in my opinion. You know, obviously that didn't happen. William Byron won it. There was a race, what was it, a week or 2 ago? You know, the whole Kansas thing, Denny beat him. That's all there is to it. Denny beat him. Larson could have won it, but he didn't. And then the other race, I can't remember where they were at, where Larson was the best car and got wrecked or whatever the hell it was. But anyways, doesn't matter. You have to close the deal. Shoulda, woulda, coulda does not matter. You have to close the deal. William Byron has been able to close the deal this year. He's got 3 wins on the season. He's got the most wins on the season. You look at Martin Truex Jr., right? He got that win at Dover, but last week at Darlington, the first half of the race, he was hands down the best car. And it wasn't even close. He was dominating that race. Then he
Yeah,
gets back
by
in
a
dirty
wide
air.
margin.
Yes, and then he gets back in dirty air, and he is just like everybody else. So you've got to close the deal. That's all there is to it. And Ross has not been able to close the deal. Now, he's still in a very good position points-wise. He's got 5 stage wins on the year. He's leading the points. And, even in the projected playoff points right now, which is early, I think he's like second. So he's still doing good, but he should have a couple more wins in my opinion. So yeah, I'm with you, man. Got to close that deal because right now he's missing some opportunities. All right, so that is going to do it for our hit or miss portion of the show. But before we get into our NASCAR pick'em, we've got a new segment that we're going to be doing here, which is our dirt track recap. So we talked about this a couple weeks ago, wanting to do this dirt track recap because we just don't. Me and Keith obviously love dirt racing. We talk about it some, but there's not as much big news on the dirt side. One of the things that drives the NASCAR stuff in our conversations is because there's way more news, there's way more talking points. We're not hearing every week whether or not the Outlaws should have more horsepower, right? Or whether they should change the tire or whether they should be fighting or whatever. We don't hear that about the Outlaws all the time. We hear that constantly in NASCAR. So we wanted to do this dirt track recap so we could basically cover all of the dirt racing news of the bigger series, obviously Outlaws, Lucas Oil Late Model, All Stars, that type of stuff, with a couple, of the more big regional ones. So a couple of things. We'll start with the Outlaw series. Brad Sweet, I had fun with this one, Keith. I sent my man, our man Jeremy up in PA, Mr. Beer Hill Gang Posse fan himself, sent him a message with a picture of Brad Sweet celebrating. Sweet beats the Outlaws at Williams Grove Morgan Cup, which was awesome because Brent Marks finished second. Loved it. Did you get to see that race? Sweet dominated. He led all 25 laps.
I did not. I kind of watched a little bit of the highlights. Don't surprise me that he won at Williams Grove, though.
No, it was really cool because if you remember, what was it, last year he got his first win at Williams Grove, I think. It was like his first win. Like it was a track he had not done very well at. Had ran there like
Yeah,
40
sounds about
times and now he's like super fast there. So, yeah. Sweet gets the win at Williams Grove for the Morgan Cup. Now, the if I'm remembering correctly, the other one,
the Gettysburg Clash,
yeah,
was won by Anthony Macri.
was won by Macri, yeah.
So the
So
posse started out with the first
yeah,
lap. But
they got the first one. They got Lincoln, got that, and then Sweet got Morgan Cup. Now they're going to be where are they running this weekend? They're going to be at Attica, which should be pretty good. But yeah, so they're going to be going to Attica. High Limit Sprint Car Series, Kyle Larson got the win at Wayne County. No surprise there. Larson's actually leading Macri in points. I don't know. Did Macri say if he was going to be running the full High Limit season for points?
I don't remember.
I don't remember neither, but I'm trying to think because, if you look at the points right now, it's Larson's leading, and you got Macri, Brian Brown, Justin Sanders, Tyler Courtney, Rico Abreu, Brent Marks, Justin Peck, Buddy Kofoid, and Parker Price Miller. That's your top 10. They're essentially running like once every couple weeks. It's like once a month, basically. So it's definitely a series that is easier to run for points, especially even if you are a PA posse guy where you're not leaving the state that often. So,
and I tell you what, that those races have been exciting over.
They have been. They've been really good.
Good.
Yeah.
Like I gotta give a big pat on the back. My good buddy, Chase Randall started on the pole in the feature, and I was praying like hell that he'd pull it off, and he unfortunately didn't, and then blew a tire and junked a car. That poor kid can't catch any luck, but he looked really good. He looked really good in his dash. I thought he'd have something for old Larson, but he's a wily vet. There's no getting Kyle
Yeah,
unless if he wrecks out or blows an engine.
exactly, exactly. So,
And and what I liked in the race Tuesday night is Brian Brown and I think it was Brent Marks both started in the back and ended up finishing. One was in the top 5 and one was just outside the top 5. That's freaking exciting.
oh yeah, definitely,
Like Brian Brown
absolutely.
ain't no slouch.
No, no,
It
no, no, no.
that that's some hell of some amazing driving for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, it's been the high limit sprint car series has been really good racing, man. It's been
And
really good this year.
and another bright spot from Tuesday night is our dude Chris Wyndham from the non-wing.
Mhm.
He looked freaking good.
Yep. And I think
I
you're
was
going to be
starting to question.
seeing
I was like, "Is that a different Chris Wyndham?"
yeah. Yeah. And when you look at, Sheldon Haudenschild finished ninth, James McFadden finished 10th, Rico Abreu 5th. I mean, these are some big guys that he's beat, you know what I mean? Wyndham beat some heavy hitters. So, yeah, really cool to see him do as well as he did because yeah, those high limit races have been they've been literally like all-star races. I mean, you really think
Like
about it, there's top
I
guys coming out for him.
I think they've put on better racing than the Outlaw so far, and that's no notch to the Outlaw series. I mean, they're the best of the best, but damn, you
Mm-hmm.
just can't. I've not seen a bad race with a high limit series yet.
No. Mm-mm. So they will be going to Tri-City next here in a couple weeks. Definitely going to be looking forward to that, and you can watch that on Flow Racing. So be looking forward to that. So next up, we've got the All-Star Circuit of Champions. Tyler Courtney, once again, is still leading the points over Hunter Schurenberg, and he got the win at Wilmot Raceway over Chris Wyndham and Hunter Schurenberg. I didn't get to watch this full race. I watched the highlights of it. Actually, a pretty good race. Tyler Courtney ceases to amaze me in these sprint cars, man. Obviously, we know the dude can drive. I mean, he was phenomenal in USAC, but to come in to the wing racing the way that he has and run the All-Star series the way that he has and to be as successful as he has been, it's been pretty incredible. You know, say what you will about the All-Star Circuit of Champions, but those are legit sprint car drivers, man.
Yeah.
Those guys are legit. Yeah, you're not racing Donnie Schatz and Brad Sweet every race, but there's Wyndham's out there, Schurenberg, you got Tim Schaefer, Cy Lynch, right? Parker Price Miller. There's very, very good sprint car drivers that are running in that series consistently. So,
And and I think this year is I'm gonna go out and say it. I think Chris Wyndham has a breakout year in a wing car this year. I know there's been a couple people like, man, he just sucks. He needs to get out of the wing car. Well,
no, he
just
doesn't.
because Tyler Courtney did it from the non-wing stuff to the wing stuff doesn't mean Chris Wyndham can do it. Yeah,
Hmm.
it takes some guys a little bit longer to get adapted to the car to learn how to drive it. And I really think, man, Wyndham looked freaking good in the last 3, maybe 4 wing races that I've watched that he's been in, and I think he's starting to turn that corner.
He is. He's definitely getting better. He's definitely getting better.
I mean, it's funny to me looking at these points where Tyler Courtney, of course, is leading, and Hunter Schurenberg. Hunter Schurenberg, I used to race non-wing sprint cars with him here in Indiana, and it's funny seeing those two guys leading the points, knowing them are two non-wing guys.
Hmm. Yeah. It's yeah, it's crazy, man. It's so crazy that's
And and it's even funnier because Hunter Schurenberg's crew chief is a non-wing guy.
hmm. Yep. Yep. No,
A
I actually
multi
think the non-wing stuff helps, man. I really do.
I think it helps with car control. I
I
really do.
absolutely car and throttle control.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Yep. So, yeah, so good racing out of the Lucas or not the Lucas Oil, the All-Star Circuit of Champions. Moving on to the Lucas Oil Late Model Series. Brandon Shepherd got the win at the Farmer City 74. This was actually, if you did not watch this late model race, go watch the replay of it because it was really good. You've got 3 of the top 4 moved up double digits, okay, in terms of their position. So Brandon Shepherd got the win. He started 14th, okay, finished first. Then you got Gordy Gundiger, who started second, finished second. Third place was Brian Shirley. He started 18th. Fourth place was Ricky Thornton Jr. He started 21st. Okay? Think about that. They moved up like 20, I think it was, no, 30, like 34 positions total. Shepard, Shirley, and Thornton Jr. moved up like 34 positions total. It was insane. In a late model, right? In a late model, much bigger, much harder to pass. So it was a really, really cool race. I enjoyed it. I am a big Brandon Shepherd fan on the late model side. I like Davenport. I like, I don't have a favorite driver. I really, for some reason, I've always just really taken to Brandon Shepherd. I really like the guy. He's just done really good, and to see him get a win, like I said, at the Farmer City 74, and to do it the way that he did it, right? To start 14th and get the win is pretty cool.
That is insane. No, I used to have a favorite late model racer. I know I'm gonna get beat up for this. Yes, I used to like late model racing, but I used to be a huge Jeep Van Warmer fan, and I don't think he really races anymore. At
No,
least if he does, I don't really pay attention. Then I've not really paid attention to late model
yeah,
racing here
I still
lately.
like late
So
models. I do, man. I
they
like
put
them.
on some good races.
They
There's
do.
there's some tracks where I can sit down and watch them. Then there's just some where it's just like, this is boring.
Yeah, yeah. No, I like the late models, man, but I'm with you that I like them at certain tracks over others. Um, you
Like I
know,
could sit down and watch a 50 lap feature late model race at a short track. Then you
yeah,
start getting into the bigger 3/8 miles. I think they start getting a little dull, I think, to my
yeah. I
liking.
like them. I like them at. I think you're right. There are a few half miles I do like them at. I mean, obviously, when you go to
I like them at
Eldora and
Eldora.
stuff, yeah,
Yeah.
everything's good at Eldora. But you're right. I do like them at some of the shorter tracks and the bigger tracks, depending on what they are. So yeah.
Like
But
it's on my bucket list to either go to the World 100 or the Dream. I want to
yeah.
go to either one of them. Don't care which one, just one of them.
Mm-hmm. So. All right, well, moving on, we got one more regional series that we're going to talk about, which is out here in California, the King of the West 410 Sprint Car Series. And I'm actually talking about this one because of this last weekend. Who won the? What we had was the Peter Murphy Classic, which is the with the SCCT Sprint Car Championship Tour that they've got down here. So they're running 410s and 360s. The 410s is obviously the big series. Night number 1 went to Corey Day. James McFadden was out there running. Okay, he came out and ran. Remember, Roth got suspended, and so they were out running here in California with the King of the West series in this big money event. Right, it was 11,000 to win. And then night number 2 went to Dominic Selzy. Now, the reason why I want to really talk about this has to do with night number 1 and Corey Day. So if you look at the King of the West series right now, they have ran a total of 6 races. Okay. 3 of them have been won by Corey Day, 2 of them by Dominic Selzy. A buddy of mine was actually down there running. He has a couple of sprint cars he's running. I see him almost every day. Used to run outlaw carts with them. He raced with Sweet and Larson. He actually raced a whole lot more with those guys, not just outlaw carts like me. But he was down there and he was talking about Corey Day. And I was pretty shocked at what he said. Now my buddy's name is Kyle, and he was telling me that this weekend he was sold. He said Corey Day. Somebody mentioned that they thought Corey Day was the next Kyle Larson. This guy said Corey Day is going to be better than Kyle Larson, which I was shocked to hear him say that. You got to understand, coming from Northern California and to have Kyle Larson and Brad Sweet both come out of this basically the same area as us, and we raced against them, watched them come up. those guys are like, they walk on water, right? Like that's just how it is. You know what I mean? It's like people, it's like down in, in North Carolina and Kannapolis, right? Dale Earnhardt's going to walk on water because he put that Know Nothing town on the map. Okay. So it's the same type of thing. We have a lot of good drivers that have come from California, but those two are kind of our banner carriers. You know what I mean? For someone to say who knows what he's talking about, this guy Kyle, he knows what he's talking about. He's done sprint car racing his whole life. For him to say that he thinks Corey Day is going to be better than Kyle Larson, I was pretty shocked by that. And if you go watch the race, he passed James McFadden like McFadden was in reverse. It was insane. That track at Hanford was incredible. There was a huge cushion, and Corey Day pounded that thing like there was no other. He's 16. He's a kid. And I think he is somebody we're going to be seeing on the Outlaw Tour in just a couple of years once he's eligible to run it. So, Keith, what are your thoughts? Have you seen Corey Day race much? He ran with the Outlaws during the California Swing.
I watched him, I think, midget week. He ran a midget for Clausen, and he looked pretty freaking good. Like he's a racer.
He's
a
absolutely a
wheelman.
racer. He is.
And I've seen him a couple times in a wing car, and I would bet on him.
I
If
would
I was
too.
to bet on a race and he was in it, I would put money on him.
Yep, I would too. His dad, obviously, I grew up watching his dad, Ronnie Day. Ronnie Day used to run midgets and sprint cars for a couple of the teams that I worked for out here. And I think his son is already as good, if not better, than his dad was, which is really saying something. Ronnie Day was a stud out here, and his son he's ridiculous, man. So I was shocked by that statement. But when I went back and because I had already seen the race and I went back and rewatched the whole replay, I was like, man, I can kind of see what he's saying, because he was like, look, Larson could have been there running. He wasn't beating Corey Day that night. And I was like, yeah, I think you're right, Kyle. So really, really interesting. But anyways, that is our dirt track recap. Now, before we wrap things up with our Ask 3 Wide, we are going to do our NASCAR pick'em. We didn't get a chance to do it last week because we had, my man Keith was sick. But, and this is a big but, we were actually going to take this week off. We were going to take this week off because this week is the All-Stars. But here's what we're going to do. Since you were out last week, Keith, what we're going to do is for the All-Star race, we're going to do a wild card round so we can pick any driver we want for the All-Star race. Any driver we want. Even if we've already picked them, we can pick them.
Well, that makes it easier on me because I got a couple guys that I've used that I could probably use again, thank God.
So, who do you want?
Man, the guy I really want to pick has to come out of the open. So, I don't know. And you could probably guess who I'm talking about already. It's just a matter of him getting out of the open. So what would happen then? Like if I was to pick him and him not make it through the open or the fan vote,
then he's got to be in the he's got to be in the final All-Star race. Yeah, if my guy is in it and yours isn't, then yeah. I tell you what we'll do is this. If you pick someone in the open and they make the race, that'll be a bonus too. We'll give you the same as a bonus win. So you'll get 2 bonus points if your driver comes from the open into the main race.
I'll take Josh Berry.
Josh Berry, huh?
Yep.
All right. So you're going to take Josh Berry. And just so you know, you did beat me 2 weeks ago at Kansas. You had Chastain. I had Kyle Busch. Chastain beat Kyle Busch.
And right. I almost took Hamlin too. That's what's funny.
So, it's so interesting because of the track. I mean, we don't really have any type of measuring stick for North Wilkesboro. These teams have never been here. I've been trying to think about, well, who could I pick that they've been on a track that's close to it? I am going to go with Kevin Harvick
I like it.
just because
That
it's a
was
short track. Harvick is actually going to be running a Cars Tour race there. I it's the All-Star race. I think he obviously wants to go out with a bang, and so we're gonna pick Kevin
he's
Harvick.
running the throwback. He's bringing
He's
the
running.
29 back.
That's right.
That
So,
was going to be my second pick because
yep,
I didn't know he was going to go first.
yep.
Um, but no, I listened to Dale Jr.'s podcast coming home this morning. They were talking about the practices for the Cars Tour and just listen to Josh Berry talk because that's who's the crew chief on Dale Jr.'s
Mm-hmm.
Cars Tour late model stock that they raced last night. And
Yeah.
just listening to him talk, and Josh has experience at these beat up old racetracks, so.
Yeah.
But then again, Kevin Harvick's got the vet savviness of knowing how to save tires because that's going to be a thing, I
Yes, it
think.
is. I'm with you. I think so too. I think so too.
May the best man win, but I got to get out of the open
Yeah,
first.
exactly. Well, if you do, you get 2 bonus points right there. It doesn't even matter if you beat me or not. And you're
So
already spanking me on this. You're up 20 points on me on the season.
I've not seen the format for the All Star race. Are they still doing like 3 stages in the open, and the winner of each
So,
stage moves on? I know that's how they used to do it.
yeah, I
I've spent the
don't
last 10 minutes trying to find it, and I can't find it.
Yeah, I know it's supposed to be a little bit different this year because it's Wilkesboro, but I don't know exactly how different because I'm with you. I have not seen an actual full layout of what it's going to be like. They haven't shown us anything, so I
All right,
don't
I found it.
know.
So the pit crew, they're going to have a pit crew challenge
Yes.
that will decide qualifying.
Yes, which is cool. I actually like that they're doing that again.
They're going to do the All-Star race heat races also. So that is that for the open? No, the open. Okay, so the All-Star Open 100 laps competition break on or around lap 40, top 2 finishers transfer to the All-Star race and the fan vote. So 3. 3 will
Okay.
come out of the open.
Nice.
I think he can finish second or win.
Yes, I do too. Definitely. Definitely. So, okay. Well, I I'm feeling good about my pick.
I
I think
feel good about both of our picks,
yeah,
really. I
I
really
do.
do. And then
So,
hopefully next week or the week after we'll have some news to talk about Josh Berry.
hopefully, yeah.
There's been
That'll
some
be a
rumors.
yeah, that'll be nice. So, yeah, hopefully we'll get something. But all right, so to wrap up today's show, we've got an ask 3 wide question from Timmy. Timmy. And those of you who've seen South Park will get that reference. But anyways, got a question from Timmy. So this actually came in last week, and I said during the pod I didn't want to do this without Keith because it was such a cool question. So he said, "Tommy, Keith, if you guys came into money and you could start a NASCAR team and a World of Outlaws sprint car team, which driver would you pick for each? Thanks." I thought that was a really interesting question. So essentially, we're going to start a World of Outlaws sprint car team and a NASCAR Cup team. All right. We can pick any driver we want to start those teams off with. Who are you picking?
Well, I think for my outlaw team, I'd probably call David. I'd call David Gravel. Have him
Nice.
drive it. He's been in a wing car forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the feedback from him would be beneficial.
Yes, it
And
would.
then on the NASCAR side, I'm going to assume this is with the next gen car.
Yes. Yes, it's with the current car.
Ooh, this is tough. Give me 1 second because I got to think about it now. I'd have Denny Hamlin. I'd hire Denny Hamlin.
That's a good one. I like it.
He would he's a current owner, so I could get some feedback from him on that.
Yeah, veteran presence. I like that.
And he's a veteran race car driver. So that way he could quarterback the team here
Mm-hmm.
and get the ship in the right direction.
That's nice. I like that. Yeah, I like that a lot. That's smart. That's a way better than that's a much smarter, lot more thought than I put into it. So,
Well, I
um,
was gonna go Kyle Larson with both and just go for it, but
well, for my sprint car team, we actually just talked about him. I'm going with Corey Day.
I like it.
He's a like I said, I think he's going to be. I wasn't putting him at that Kyle Larson level, but for my buddy Kyle, another Kyle, to say that with the knowledge and experience that he has, I would go with Corey Day just because if he's only
And
16, 17 years old. If you could get him on the Outlaw Tour and have a couple years with them, I think you could go on a very long, successful run with them.
here's another thought that I probably should have put in on the sprint car side. Being that we have experience with sprint car racing, it
Mm-hmm.
ain't like you would need somebody with a shitload of my mind is drawing a blank experience
Yeah.
to put behind the wheel of the car. So you could go with a Corey Day and
Mm-hmm.
it could either pay off
Have him
or it
take
could
his
pay off.
lumps for a couple. Yeah, have him take his
Yeah, I
lumps for
mean,
a couple of seasons, and still then he's only 19,
and
20 years
and
old. And
and say if I was you and I pulled that move, I got billions of dollars in the bank,
mm-hmm.
no fucks to really give. I'm living like Ross Chastain.
Yeah.
You could give a guy like Corey Day time
Oh
to
yeah,
grow,
absolutely,
and
absolutely.
that's a smart move. I like that. I should
Yeah.
have fucking went that way with
Yeah.
Chance Randall, but
Yeah.
here we are.
Yeah. And for my cup team, I'm picking Kyle Larson just because he's good, and then I could also send him to my sprint car team and have him help Corey Days. That's why I'm picking
Oh,
Kyle Larson.
Denny doesn't know it, but it's in his contract. He's
Yeah,
gonna have to
he
try
doesn't know
it.
he's gonna be pulling an Alex Bowman and learning sprint car racing on the weekends.
I'm gonna pull
So
that whole I'm gonna pull that whole, well, you signed the contract, and then I'm gonna slip that other sheet of paper in the very back
exactly.
of it and be like, "Well,
Yeah,
Denny, look, now you got to do
yeah,
this too."
yeah. You didn't see that carbon copy in the back there, buddy? Sorry. So
I'm
yeah,
gonna zoom it way out to where the words are real small and you can't see them.
there you go. Super fine print.
The fine
So
print's actually in the logo. He
there
just
you
don't know.
go. Yeah. So that's our picks for that. But thank you, Timmy. That was a really good question. His name's actually Tim. I was calling him Timmy as a joke. I'm so
That's
sorry.
funny.
Sorry about that. But thanks, Tim. Appreciate the email, man. But if you guys want to write in and ask us a question, any type of question, whether I don't know, life, racing, whatever, you can send it to ask3wide at gmail.com. That's ask the number 3wide at gmail.com. Yeah, so
Yeah, I think
always fun.
that was one of the
Yeah.
better questions. I had fun
Yeah,
with
that
it.
was interesting. Yeah, that was I had
Tim,
never
think
thought
of
about that.
another one just
Yeah.
like that.
Come up with another racing mind bender for us. So, but you guys, that's going to do it all for this week's show. Longer than normal, but yeah, we had a lot to cover with Keith being out last week and a bunch of stuff going on. So we got the All-Star racing coming up. I think was last night I was so busy with work. Was last night all the late model racing?
Yeah, so last night was a late model stock
Yeah.
racing.
They ran the Cars Tour and the super late models and all that stuff, I
Yep,
think, last night.
Kevin Harvick actually beat Dale Jr.
Yep. Well,
He
there
finished
was a bunch of Cup guys running. Daniel Suarez was running in the super late models, I think. You had
Chase Briscoe was
Junior, Chase
late model
Briscoe,
stock, Junior
yeah,
was
Harvick,
model stock, Harvick, Keselowski,
Keselowski, yeah. I mean, there was a few of them. So,
Eric Jones.
mhm.
There was a good bunch of them, and the highlights that I watched of the race, it was a really good race.
Yeah.
Like I'm remotely excited for the weekend.
Yeah, I am too. I am too. I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, it should
And
be a
and you
fun
know,
weekend.
I'm curious to see where Kevin Harvick goes with this late model stock car. Because
I
I
think we're
don't
gonna
think,
see him race it.
huh? I know he's racing it one more time at Caraway Speedway, but let's be real here. He didn't buy this car to race it twice.
No.
That man's got something up his sleeve because I know he purchased a car and then gave Rodney Childers open book to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think he'll be running it some. I also wouldn't be surprised if we don't see Keelan in it here in a couple years.
I almost wouldn't be surprised if Kevin Harvick Incorporated came back in a late model stock series
Yeah.
with Car Store.
Yep. So, but yeah, interesting stuff. We'll definitely keep our eyes on it. But yeah, that's going to do it all for this week. Thank you very much as always for joining us. Please download, share, subscribe, like, all that other good stuff. Get it out there to your friends, your family, your foes. We don't care. Just get it out there. Keep doing what you're doing. The show's growing. Even if it's only a couple of people a week, doesn't matter. Slow and steady wins the race. So keep doing what you're doing. And Keith and I will be back here next week to do it all over again. So Keith, my man, have a good weekend.
I'll be at work, so I will not.
Yeah, I'll be working too. So have
But
a good
no, I
weekend
will.
as best as you
You
can.
too.
And I will, my man. And until next week, as always, take care.